Welcome to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales, where we tackle the big challenges sales professionals face every day. In this episode, Kevin Lawson and Sean O'Shaughnessy are joined by special guest Ben Victorica, who reveals why cold calling is officially dead and what you should be doing instead to build a winning sales pipeline. Discover how to leverage your LinkedIn network like a pro, transform relationships into revenue, and make every connection count. Plus, you'll learn actionable tips for turning casual contacts into warm introductions that drive results. Stay tuned as we redefine modern sales and help you leave outdated tactics behind for good.
Today is going to be exceptionally fun because we have a guest. If you're a salesperson, sales leader, business owner, you probably have one challenge that everyone in your same seat has, and that's not having enough pipeline or not being able to engage them quickly. Today, we're joined by Ben Victorica, and he's got some insight on how they are approaching this problem from a practical application standpoint. Ben, welcome here.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited to collaborate with you guys and talk about one of my favorite topics of helping the sales team. Those that come and approach me as it relates to selling, they still are employing things that worked in the 80s and 90s on how to do outbound to build that top of funnel. The most expensive part of the sales funnel is building the top of funnel. And what they have found is that cold calling is dead. Cold outreach is not working, and relationship selling is still working. And so that's kind of the topic of today's discussion. I remember when I found that cold calling died. It was in 2021 when the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about how Bank of America banned their brokers from doing cold calling. They did a study, cold hard math, on why doesn't it work? And they ran the numbers, and it was just ineffective and inefficient. The long-term repercussions of doing cold outreach on the average business size and how long those customers stayed, all of those downstream metrics never really paid for themselves as much as relationship selling. I like to say cold calling is dead, relationship selling instead.
I love that saying. Thank you very much for being on our show, Ben. We appreciate it. We've known each other for a bit of time now because you have some software products that I like and I use and some of my clients use. But I completely agree with the whole challenge of cold calling is dead. It's actually incredibly expensive if you think about it. If you add up the hours, the quota hours for a salesperson to make cold calling. So a lot of people will add up the hours and say, this is my cost of the individual, the salary and benefits and whatever. But I like to say you need to add up the hours of doing quota. How many dollars is that person responsible for bringing into the company? So if they have $1 million quota or a $2 million quota or anything like that, and you do that by the 2,000 hours that are in the year, you get really expensive on your hourly rate really fast. Cold calling is tough. People don't answer the phone. You talk about an article you read that kind of told you the trigger point. I like to point to the fact that when I started my career, and as everybody who knows me, or maybe you can look on the cover image of this podcast, you can see that I have a lot of gray hair. So I've been doing this for quite some time. The reality is that when I made phone calls when I was a young salesperson, the phone rang. It didn't have an answering machine tied to it. It might have had a tape recorder type of answering machine, but didn't have voicemail. It probably didn't have an LED display or an LCD display to tell who was actually making the phone call to you. So you picked up the phone. Cold calling worked. So my boss was like, yeah, make cold calls, pick up the phone and call people. But that doesn't work anymore because we don't have those phones that we're answering anymore.
Yeah, and then the same thing with the emails as well. People think that every email is sent by a marketing machine or an AI bot, and that it's not personal. So I talked to a CEO the other day, and I pulled her article that said that she talks to other CEOs and that they have deleted every cold outreach email they've received, or their admin has deleted every one of them for the last 3 years. About the same time of that Wall Street Journal article in 2021. They just do not answer. So if you're looking as a salesperson to get to the decision maker, whether it's a business owner or a CEO, CFO, the top decision maker, the contract signer, they're not getting your messages. They're deleting them automatically.
Automatically is the key here. Before we get too far, we poke some people in the eye talking about cold calling is dead. What we're not saying is that outreach is no longer important. We're not saying you can stop prospecting, because you can't. So let's kind of peel the onion on that. We know that top of funnel cold outreach with no relationship is nearly impossible. It's a cost line on any P&L. Ben, you're the expert here. You've got a tool that we both use, or that Sean and I both use, and we recommend our clients. But let's kind of peel the onion on how we shift that paradigm from nobody's answering the phone to getting people talking, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think that the main thing is to leverage your relationships and to be strategic about it. One way to do that doesn't cost any software is the people that are your most cherished referral partners, those that could recommend your company, recommend you for an opportunity at any time. Those are the ones you should be connecting as a first degree connection on LinkedIn because those people are the ones you want to be able to leverage. Once you're connected first degree on LinkedIn with those people, even on the free version, if they do not have a privacy setting on, they are sharing their connections. You look through their connections to find people that meet your ideal customer profile, because they're going to be connected to people that will not meet your ideal customer profile. So you need to find those that are working in the right title, in the right company, in the right geography that you're trying to reach. So if you have a territory in Washington State or something, and you want the people that are located there, then you should mine their direct connections for that. Then make a list for your super connector. The next time you meet with them, you schedule a meeting or you have lunch with them, bring that list with you and tell them, these are people in your network that meet my ICP. I appreciate a referral to these people. Which ones do you know well enough to provide a referral? You're going to disarm their number one objection, which is, I'm connected to a lot of people on LinkedIn and I don't know them all. But if you prioritize the ones that are important to you and present them to your super connector, they'll be able to take 5 or 10 of them and make a warm introduction. You'll know exactly who it's coming from. You'll know that the relationship that you have with them and who they have on the other side.
That's really good practical advice there, Ben. I really appreciate you actually boiled it down step by step. You need to connect with that person, look through their connections, boil your own list, and make a request. Can you introduce me to those 5 or 10? And you shouldn't be handing that person an email with 100. You should be polite. You're asking that person for a favor. So make sure that they're the really good ones. And after they do 5 or 10, you can go back in a year and say, here's another 5 or 10. Can you make the introductions to that? You don't have to do the whole 100 up front. You hand somebody 100 people that you'd like an introduction to, then you're going to get 0. So just do 5, 10, maybe 20, but anything more than that is probably abusing that relationship, don't you think?
I like to put things into that context of crawl, walk, run. Do things in phases. And I totally agree that you're trying to get one of your super connectors that's a busy executive. And so you want them to take the action, but you do need to make it a reasonable request.
I would suggest maybe you should write the connection email that person's going to send. Make it easy for that person. Hand them the email to suggest they send. Say, hey, Joe, I met with Kevin. Kevin's a great guy. You should talk to Kevin. I think he's fantastic. This is what Kevin's all about. I think you'll really enjoy it, right? But write that email for him as opposed to, gee, would you be creative and write an email for me?
Absolutely. That's an easy thing to do with a free version of ChatGPT. You could leverage that to write an email, put some prompt engineering behind it about who you are, who the end customer is. And again, without costing anything, salespeople can adopt best practices. Super connectors could be current customers. could be a great referral partner, could be a former customer, could be a former employer. You have to also think, who are all the possible super connectors for me? And leveraging that in a respectful way is something that it's 40 times more effective than cold outreach. And it doesn't have the negative connotations of cold outreach. My top 10 list of the cons for cold outreach is that there's a low conversion rate, it's intrusive, there's a high rejection rate, it's time consuming, it's perceived as spam. There are legal restrictions like National Do Not Call Registry and other recent things related to spam email. There's technological barriers, negative brand perception. You're creating a negative brand for yourself and your company. It's very resource intensive and inefficient. There is a less than 1% return. You send 10,000 emails, only less than 10 people are going to respond, and 6 of them are going to say, get me off your list. Low odds for a sales professional.
Let's dig on that a little bit. We got a few minutes left here. So for our listeners, they're probably thinking, okay, we've defined the problem. It's really expensive and almost undoable to make somebody pick up the phone, right? The solution is connecting, but let's talk about closing that gap between knowing who to contact and relationship intelligence. The people who are succeeding now have a high EQ, emotional intelligence. They're leveraging tools that are commercially available, free and paid. And talk through about how you're coaching the businesses you work with on building business acumen and relationship intelligence in their sales cycles.
The relationship intelligence, what you want to know is how strong is the relationship with that customer or prospect. And that can be measured in a lot of different ways. The velocity of engagement, like how fast, if you send something, they respond. Let's say everything's outgoing and they don't respond at all, then that's a one-way communication. And the other one is how strong is the relationship in your company, the entire team that you work with. A warm introduction could be just your colleague, but because a lot of systems are siloed, like email is siloed, CRM for the most part is siloed, and it's only based on what people put in, there needs to be a way to get that relationship intelligence to surface the information for you.
Ben, we only have a few more minutes here, and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. We tell everybody this is a 15-minute podcast. I also want to make sure everybody knows a little bit about you, your company, and the value you bring and why we have a relationship with you to begin with. If you could do a little commercial for a minute or so, that'd be great.
Thanks for the opportunity. So I am the sales vice president for KnowledgeNet, and KnowledgeNet is designed to help customers leverage their relationship capital, we call it, that team brain, so that they can see what the strength of relationships are with prospects and customers, and then leverage them at scale to grow their business. So a salesperson that's using KnowledgeNet, wherever they're working, they're CRM, they're on LinkedIn, they're at a customer or website, they can see all that intelligence, including contact information for the customer or the prospect and who in their network can provide that referral. It lights a path to the strongest relationship.
And how do we get a hold of you for those people that want to do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn and through my company website, knowledgenet.ai.
Fantastic. Hey, Ben, thank you so much for being here. You're a great guest, and I personally use the KnowledgeNet tool. I recommend it to my clients because I get value out of it. It was a game changer for me in building not only my lead list, but also learning more about my existing customers, having information about their businesses beyond my relationship with them has been invaluable. So thanks for your time. And for everybody out there in listener land, happy selling.
What a great episode, Sean and Kevin. It was great to listen to the ideas and advice from Ben Victorica. We learned so much about the power of leveraging LinkedIn connections to turn cold leads into warm, actionable opportunities. Ben broke it down step by step, how to identify your super connectors, mine their networks for high-value prospects, and make polite, targeted requests for introductions. This strategy can save you time, improve your conversion rates, and make prospecting feel less like a chore and more like a strategic opportunity. One of the most significant takeaways from this episode is the actionable item Sean highlighted: approaching your super connectors with a curated list of 5 to 10 ideal prospects. By keeping your requests manageable and providing a pre-written email for introductions, you show respect for their time while increasing the likelihood of success. This technique can dramatically improve your outreach efficiency, so don't wait. Start using it today before it gets buried in your busy schedule. If you're looking for more ways to improve your sales process, grow your company, or simply get better at managing your sales team, Sean and Kevin are here to help. Their contact information is in the show notes and a quick assessment to see how well your sales team is performing. Don't miss the chance to tap into their expertise and take your sales to the next level. Be sure to subscribe to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales on your favorite podcast player so you never miss an episode filled with actionable advice and expert insights. Until next Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, happy selling!